Why don't vampires ever wash their dishes? Well, it's because they hate Dawn. What's going on, YouTube? It is Tuesday, so we have our Tuesday vendor refresh. We are starting inside the Infinite Archive inside of Apocrypha, which is a free-to-play zone if you've never been here before. And Fire has a rotational assortment of items for us, and we start with an imitation adornment. I'm not even going to pronounce the P word. It just looks ridiculous. So if you wanted to normally get that item, it's part of a music box. So nothing really super exciting. And unfortunately, the death sentence for getting this lead is that it just drops from a Delve boss, which Delve bosses do have an annoyingly long respawn time on occasion, if I'm being honest. Like sometimes you just want to get in and out, but truthfully, one of the easiest leads to get. And that comes from a music box, but this one is a mythic. It's the Torque of Tonal Constancy. So now this one just drops from world bosses in Alakir Desert. So not one that's really super good when it comes to saving you a lot of time. And the Torque is a fine mythic. I don't think it's super good. I don't think it's super bad. I put it somewhere between the A and the B tier. It's so niche in today's day and age. Why do you want to have that much recovery for the opposite resource that you're using? And is that even a lot of recovery in today's day and age? I mean, it's 2025. You just slap on Roxa's Wretched Vitality. Got all yourself your restoration needs when it comes to your resources. Next up is the Monster Max from Ice Reach. Now, this one you can see has this loving motherly face to it, but unfortunately, its value is not very high. And these are PC prices, people. So this is like the clickbaity the prices that I could find for you. 900k gold. I mean, yeah, it's better than a slap in the face. There are only 2 listings, but I think it just boils down to the fact that it just doesn't look very cool. There's a reason why the City of Ash one, even though it comes from City of Ash 2, excuse me, is worth significantly more. It looks cooler. It's not about the difficulty of the dungeon. It's not about how exclusive it is. Sometimes it just boils down to Valkut Scoria looks cool. Mother Ciy looks not cool. And then we take that trend into the blueprints. Now, do not be clickbaited by the prices of these. So some people will say 2,000 Archival Fortunes, 24k gold. That's not bad value. And that's true. It's not bad value, but a lot of these are not worth that much gold. And you can see the average of these is always a bit cattywampus because you have people selling these for 939, you have people selling these for 40k. Another thing too is that they are going to go down in price over time because people are going to be buying them this week for Archival Fortunes. If I was to consider one though, it would be the Dwarven Trunk. I will admit, Dwarven BPs are usually really annoying to get. If you guys need an updated video on farming like specific plans, let me know. Certainly willing to do that because they are a bit weird trying to figure out where some of these drop, but usually Dwarven ones retain a lot of their value. So if you were to pick one, the Dwarven Trunk for 94k, those are Xbox prices, so it's probably even more on PC, is good value for 2k Archival Fortunes. In fact, I'm gonna buy it right now, but be warned, if you're trying to sell these for money and not just because you think it's cool and you want to put it in your house, it's 10 Mundane Runes, 7 Heartwood, you have Sprockets, Grain Solvent, Regulus, but there's some pretty expensive items to kind of need to use for BP. Thankfully, what's not something even worth considering is Malbator treasure maps. They ain't no treasure in Malbator worth really nothing. Next up though, we got companion equipment weapons. Now this is interesting because some of the most valuable pieces of a companion gear are weapons. The problem is it's the biggest gamble. I don't want you guys going out there thinking that you can buy a bunch of these and think you're about to strike it rich, because realistically, statistically, you will not. That's just the way in which we live, because oftentimes you're going to find yourself like, ooh, I really needed a shield. Got a complete wrong trade on it. That's just how the world operates. That's why I usually think it's better to buy those with gold because you're getting a guarantee. If you want to roll for companion gear, jewelry, or heavy armor when you know you're building a tank character, those are usually the best gambles. We do have some furnishings though. If you guys want to read some books, The History of Necrom, The City of the Dead. For some reason I own this book. And The Song of Fate, if you're interested to see how Fate sounds as a song. Next up, we have our Scripps Evasion Magicka Steel Generate Ultimate, as well as Anchorite's Cruelty. Now, none of these are worth your Archival Fortunes. Yes, things like Generate Ultimate are very helpful. Yes, Anchorite's Cruelty is also a really good one to have, but not worth Archival Fortunes. Do your daily quest. Check out the second vendor we're about to go look at. your life will be a lot easier. Next up is the fragment of the Hollow Fang. Now this one, I'll give you 3 guesses where it comes from. If you guessed Moongrave Fane, you would be correct. So for 5,000 archival fortunes, you can get partially the way there towards Lilac Purple as your mist form. Now, problem with an item like this is, 1, it's guaranteed drop. So you literally just do the dungeon, you get the thing. And if you're somebody who's already grinding archival fortunes, you're probably somebody who's like, I could grind a dungeon. So if this was Telvar, maybe this would be a different conversation. If Lilac Purple on a relevant skill was, you know, up for grabs, also a different conversation. Easy skip. And then we have Malographic Ichor. This bad boy already comes from the Infinite Archive. Just by doing the dailies here, completing the Infinite Archive, you're going to get these. But if you wanted to buy these to get the mount faster, you certainly can. And next up, we are inside the Scholarium inside of Ivea, which is also now a free-to-play area. I don't know why every time you zoom out, it puts you over there, but it's over here. Free-to-play area, all you need to do is start scribing. Now, the nice thing about the Chronicler is that he sells rotational scripts, so you can use these to get ones that you don't already have and that you might not be getting from daily quests. So we have Empower, Trauma, Class Mastery, Thief, Swiftness. So Class Mastery is static. It's always there. But Empower, not one that I think is super good. I think maybe you use it for some niche content, solo type content, but I think there's just better scribable skills that you're going to do for that. You're probably going to be building a different way. Trauma, unfortunately, the most positive thing that you can do to inflict upon a millennial is not super effective against either NPCs or enemies inside of Cyrodiil. Most ESO characters, unfortunately, are resistant to trauma. God bless them. And then we have Thieves Swiftness, which is certainly fine. It's a good script. In the sense that it's pretty versatile. I actually generally recommend getting the ones that you just don't have. And the reason for that is that you never know when a new patch is going to come out or a new banner or grimoire is going to come out that makes them super relevant. So I generally recommend getting them. But if you find yourself doing a lot of daily quests, which granted you probably then also have a lot of gold, it's a bit of a survivor's bias here, you should buy these. But if you do a lot of daily quests and you already have a bunch of these, it's certainly not offensive to skip these as well and only go for the juicer magoosers. And finally, we're inside the Imperial City sewers inside the Imperial City. Come over here, talk to your bad mama jamma, your Telvar merchant. They will have some great items for you to consider. Now, we do start with the opposite of a juicer magooser. This is a dry Derek. Fortunately, this is not going to be very good. This set has been out for forever. Now, a set like this is actually fine. If things like Raven Watch are up your speed, a set that gives you Health Stand Magicka crit resistance and has the ability to be in any of the, you know, traits that you want as a base, that's certainly fine. But if its range here is anything to go by, it's been out for too long. It's not going to be very good. I would say if you're using this in Raven Watch, it's like an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But if you're using this in any normal Cyrodiil campaign or Battlegrounds, Imperial City, or PvE, it's like a 6 out of 10. It's not unoffensive because it's giving you stats, but it's also giving you stats that you might not need. You know, for example, do you need stamina and magicka on most of your characters? Do you need that much crit resistance on most of your characters? Yeah, crit resistance is a very nice skill to have, but you also are building it generally in other ways. You could be getting it for bonuses in other ways. Obviously, the most popular set in the game is Rallying Cry. Why aren't you just getting it from Rallying Cry, etc., etc.? Next up is Cyrodiil's Light. Now this one also, these are all PvP sets if you're new to this. It gives you weapon and spell, max mag, and when you're casting or channeling an ability, you reduce your damage taken by 15%. When you interrupt, your next magicka ability will cost no magicka. This set's actually, I think, a little bit cooler than I think people give it credit for. A 15% flat damage reduction, it's not nothing. And there's a lot of times you could be channeling things. I mean, think about all of the channel. Imagine yourself in Cyrodiil right now or in content. Think about all the beams and the channels and the things that you see and think about how you could easily apply that to yourself. The problem is that generally if you are building that way, you're just building damage, or you're building in a way that you're like, I don't really care about a 15% damage reduction, even though it's really neat. And then interrupting people, probably not something you're doing super often in the sense that, you know, a lot of the builds that we're seeing are not really focused on interruption. You're not going to get a whole lot of value out of the second line there, but I do think it's still a good set. I would give it a 7 out of 10. It is exceptionally cheap and it's very niche in its utilization. You basically are going to be building around a lot of channels or casting, and then you're going to be taking significantly less damage when doing so. Maybe you also focus on things that interrupt as well. you could certainly build a good build around that, but I don't think it's going to be great, excellent, fantastic, or best in slot. Next up is Malakas Brutal Might Loop from, give you some guesses here as to which lead this comes from. If you guess Malakas Band of Brutality, you are just 40 chessing everything that I'm asking you of today. Now, this one normally just drops from Public Dungeon Boss. Now, Scholarium is definitely one of the easier ones to do. Some of the newer DLCs are pretty annoying actually to go in their public dungeon, but this one is pretty easy to do. I will tell you though, Malakas Band of Brutality in this meta is kind of really relevant because a lot of people are building in ways where they're either building a group who can give a lot of crit resistance to people, or they're building around the fact that everybody is running Monomyth, which is a big crit damage thing. So they're trying to mitigate how much critical damage they're taking. And if you use the Malakas Band of Brutality, this is actually giving you a lot more value than you normally would see. And a lot of people are building around this because it gives you a flat 16% damage reduction. And the only downside is it decreases your critical damage done. But if your critical damage is already going to do less damage, you might as well just increase your flat damage that you're doing. So a lot of people have been really building around this mythic recently, and I think it's really one to consider. It's kind of meta specific to where we are now. I don't know how valuable the Malakas Band of Brutality is going to be in the years forward, but it's always had a steady good place in PvP, even if it's a bit off meta compared to like the Monomyth. Next up is Void Alloy Lame Plates. This is a Spalder of Ruin mythic lead, and this one normally drops from Leowin safe boxes or Blackwood safe boxes, which admittedly exceptionally annoying if you think about it, because that is a very hard RNG thing to find. Yes, although if you have map add-ons, your life will be a little bit easier. Now, normally activating Crouch activates and deactivates a 12-meter aura of pride to up to 6 group members. The aura gives them 260 weapon and spell damage, and it just reduces your health, magicka, and stamina recovery by 70 for every target benefiting from the aura. It's a support mythic. It is just one that if you find yourself being a support player, it's one to definitely go out and own. The only problem is it's being sold for Telvar, which most people don't have a crazy amount of Telvar, but this is an annoying lead to get. So if you find yourself, you want to be a support player, it's very hard to rate support mythics because it's either not used at all or used for significant types of content, which is kind of where this thing falls in. I would go out and own it, but I don't necessarily think you need to rush to own something like this. So it's something to consider. It's a lead worth considering. But then we have High Isle treasure maps, which interestingly I think are worth a ton of gold because they drop the ancestral Breton motif. And right now people are just dumping them on the market for essentially very, very cheap. So obviously if people are going to sell these for this cheap, don't buy them with your Telvar. But if you find yourself in a situation where you really like, digging up treasure maps, especially if you leave them in your mail, you can buy a bunch of these bad boys right now and then dig up and get a bunch of rare motifs. Ancestral Breton sells exceptionally well compared to the price, because you saw the prices of those maps. Now look at the prices of how much the motifs actually are. And you're like, well, if you factor in the fact that you're getting one like every third map, this is a really valuable thing to do. I don't know why they're offloading these maps for so little. I guess that it's obviously you got to be in a trade guild generally to sell the items. You certainly could sell them in zone chat, but you're selling the maps for like 1,000 gold. You get 3 of them, you're like guaranteed one. And if you get something good, you could be getting like hundreds of thousands of gold. So not sure why the market is doing that. Maybe people see High Isle treasure maps inside of here and they're like, we just got to dump all our High Isle treasure maps before the market takes a nosedive, because everybody's going to be buying them. But then we have the rings of what we discussed earlier. Again, same concept. Then we have Force, Savagery, Prophecy, Flame Damage, Anchorites, Cruelty. Same concept. These are premium currencies you are spending. Force, I think, is neat, but also not necessarily hard to get. Savagery and Prophecy is definitely in the same boat. Super easy to get in content. Flame Damage is probably the best one here, along with Anchorites Potency. But both of these, I think, are easily ones that you could just look at and go, nice, but ones that I'll just get by daily questing. Not wasting my Telvar on these bad boys. And we finish on the Fragment of the Fate Eater. Now, this one comes from a really cool skill style here. Turns your Force Shock into like a Wild Burn. Looks super cool. But ours, it just comes from a world boss. So, not super cool. But I will tell you, because as always, if you think about this though, this is the only one that comes from the West Weld. So if you don't have the West Weld for whatever reason, you have everything else here, you could use this as a bit of a skip. But I don't think that you necessarily really need to do that, because it's not the it's a decently used skill, but it's one that I don't think you really need to be running out and going getting. TLDR, again, is a premium currency. I always encourage people to save them just in case there's a super annoying antiquity lead, a trial antiquity lead, or something that's really hard to do as a solo player. Like, say this is Malakaz's Band of Brutality, but it's the one that drops from the Imperial Ciy bosses. That's super annoying. Yes, we did just have Mid-Year Mayhem. Yes, hopefully those of you who wanted it got it during Mid-Year Mayhem, but still, there are really annoying leads that exist in this world, and being able to save your currency for that, or if you need gold, you can sell it, your TLDR for gold using what we talk about in that gold video, where we talk about turning TLDR into gold. So definitely an interesting week here for us, where the majority of the items are kind of a bit weird. High Isle treasure maps are certainly in the market right now, but you're going to want to buy those from Mournhold. But if you take the time to take them off the market and go excavating, you may find yourself in a great situation where you're making tons of gold, even though it's not something you directly purchase. Here, it is definitely a great money-making opportunity. Always keep in mind cheap maps. If you guys need an updated video on that, we did one a couple years ago where you could certainly update it, but there are maps you should just always look when they're cheap. The second thing is, I do love the Dwarven Ornate Chest. Had to buy myself one. It is normally worth like 200,000 gold. Dwarven BPs are notoriously very sticky to get, but most of the actual mythics, yes, there are, like Spolder of Ruin. I don't necessarily want to have to go and farm safe boxes, but we do have add-ons these days. You guys can see I have a mini-map that I can put add-ons on, where I can have all the safe boxes listed and all their spawn locations, and I can use that. It doesn't necessarily mitigate the annoyance of that lead too much, but it definitely does a little bit. But those are really the things that I would consider for this week. Let me know in the comments below if anything tickled the pickle, and it always just helps me know what you guys are looking out for in the comments below. Do you also think it's relevant for getting items that require a specific DLC? Then you don't have to actually go to that DLC or purchase that DLC. I am curious what your guys' thoughts are on that, even if the item itself isn't as good. Being able to save yourself from having to own something could potentially be very valuable. Obviously, there was the ESO Plus free trial that made some of it a little bit easier. But let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comments below, because we're doing our quick 3 giveaway drawings. All you need to do, leave a comment in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed, leave a like on the video, and then look for a hidden word be flashed upon the screen. If you're the first person to find and comment that word, you will win. We are 11 subscribers away from our next subscriber goal, so please hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you later. Bye, guys.
You better remember to like and subscribe to Jakeclips. Or you should. I might have to pluck your eyes if you don't. Or, better yet, I'll skip rope with your entrails. Do it now. Subscribe. Ta-ta. Off with you.